of this session, we have Mr. Mark Abuchu, Research Director of SANEM and Assistant Professor of Economics at the University of Dhaka. Without further ado, I will like to give this and hand over this mic to the chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all at this SANEM conference, the 9th conference. My name is Max Sunyon. I'm the ILO Country Director. I've been in Dhaka for 8 months, so this is my first time at the SANEM conference, but indeed one of the first things I heard when I arrived in Bangladesh that this is an important event in the calendar and that the ILO has been participating in for many years. So it's really my pleasure to be with you all this morning. I'd like to thank SANEM and the organizer, all of the speakers, all of you for joining this session. And I'm delighted to be joined here by Matabuddin, the Assistant Professor and Research Director for SANEM. So this, the overall mandate of the conference, or the focus of the conference, is very much in line with the ILO's mandate and core interest, which is promoting decent work and social justice. We cannot see progress when it comes to development without also addressing these key issues of decent work and social justice. And let me kick things off by maybe sharing a few reflections from the ILO perspective at the global level, which I think will also resonate with what we're seeing in South Asia and in Bangladesh in particular. And I'm drawing here on some stats that were just shared by our Director General at the spring meetings in Washington, D.C. Last week. You know, on the face of it, we see that global markets, labor markets, appear to be relatively stable in terms of unemployment remaining steady and growth continuing into the early part of 2026. But if you look just under the surface, we see a lot of worrying trends in terms of structural transformation and gaps in work quality, what we call decent work deficits. There are 2.1 billion people, that's 51% of the overall workforce globally in the informal economy, and some 284 million people in extreme poverty, working people in extreme poverty. It's really just demonstrating the scale of the challenge globally. And then when it comes to finding solutions to this, we're seeing that governments around the world are struggling to provide the necessary support, labor market support, support to workers, because of rising sovereign debt, because of limited fiscal space, and because of elevated economic uncertainty. And I think that's uncertainty is something that we're all, sadly, something that we're all getting a little bit used to and accustomed to, but it's certainly been exacerbated by the conflict in the Middle East. Every day, I think we turn on the news or open up our phones to look at what's developing there, and seeing that this has really made an additional shock to labor markets around the world, further compounding those vulnerabilities of workers and the likelihood of more people slipping into more precarious situations, having a direct impact on jobs, on wages, and working conditions. And of course, the most vulnerable being those in the informal economy, migrant workers, small enterprises, and others. So what does the ILO propose as a prescription to this? Maybe not a surprise to many of you. We're looking at how we can enhance more effective social protection systems, how we can promote more active labor market policies, support to livelihoods, etc. But of course, this is extremely challenging in the current context. What we do see, where we do find hope, is that we're seeing more and more alignment in, how do we come out of these or address these challenges? And that's quite evident here in Bangladesh, where the new government has really placed jobs at the top of its agenda as a top priority. And we expect to work very closely with the government, as well as social partners and other key actors, think tanks, IFIs, UN agencies, and others, to work together to promote more integrated approaches to tackling the unemployment challenges and the social protection challenges of the day. Now, let me throw it over now, because we want to make the most of the time that we have with this esteemed panel. And as we said, as was said this morning, we want to make sure we're not running over into the tea breaks and the coffee breaks. We have an obligation. It's the first session to stick to time. So I'm going to hand it over to our first speaker, Dr. Naz Mosadat Khan, from the World Bank, who's going to be speaking about structural shifts related to job creation. That's what's over to you.
Thank you. So the presentation is here.
Share screen.
We need to skip it. Control the screen.
Still
No, it's not. We need to save it since you have but surely bubbles. Yes. This will work, I guess. Is it working?
Okay, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here in this conference. So this is, I'll try to finish within 10 minutes. That's as we were suggested. So this is a paper that I quickly prepared last year, just to see the relationship between economic growth and employment in Bangladesh. So as we all know, the employment situation, sorry, it's not.
Just a second. I think this one is disconnected. Yeah, now it will work.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so I think we all know the employment situation in Bangladesh is at a very critical stage at this moment. Just to start with some numbers, the industry and the services sector grew by 9% and 5.9% annually in the last decade, but the employment share in these sectors have declined by 3.4 and 1.4 percentage points. Manufacturing sector maintained a robust growth of 9.1% annually, but again, the employment in this sector has declined, and its share in total employment has declined to 11.3% from 14.4% in 2017. And a large fraction of this employment, 85% almost, is in the informal sector. And this ratio hasn't really changed much in the last decade. Perhaps most worryingly is that there is a growing number of unemployed among the university graduates. So if you look at the tertiary educated unemployment as a share of total employment, the ratio has rose to 27.8% in 2022 from only 9.7% in 2013. So the idea of this paper was to check the relationship between economic growth and employment using Okun's law. So those of you who are not aware of this law, so this is something that Professor Arthur Okun suggested in his seminal significant relationship between economic growth and unemployment rate. So when the GDP increases, unemployment rate falls. So over the years, there has been many versions of this law that has been tested for different countries for different time periods using different methodologies. But the overall consensus in the literature is that the Okun's law do exist, and it's particularly for the developed countries. There is usually a strong relationship between these two variables. The studies on the developing countries are also there, but they're fewer in numbers compared to the developed countries because of a lack of long time series data and the quality of the employment data. But even the studies that we have, still there is a proof that there is an existence of Okun's law in these countries. But moreover, there is a growing number of papers in the last decade which has shown that the relationship has weakened for some of the developing countries. And this is probably where the jobless growth term got traction in the last decade. And even there are some papers which found negative relationship between economic growth and employment. So in this paper, I basically try to follow this Hamia 2016 paper to see this relationship not only for Bangladesh but also for 6 other Asian economies. I basically use an ARDL model, which is very common in this kind of analysis because of its ability to work with both stationary and non-stationary data, as well as is also is quite good in terms of capturing the short-term and long-term dynamics of the variables. But unlike the Hamia 2016 paper and most other papers in this area, rather than using the unemployment rate data as the employment growth data, and this is suggested by studies like Olamande and Angazi and Prieto, who think that for developing countries where the unemployment data is not very robust, and we should use like other alternative variables. In terms of the data, the annual GDP data is taken from the World Bank's World Development Indicators, and the employment data is taken from the World Bank's macro fiscal model for growth and jobs, which is in turn coming from the ILO data set. So this is the equation that we try to estimate. On the left-hand side, you can see where U is the employment growth rate and Y is the GDP growth rate, and gammas represent a lagged effect of employment growth, and the shies represent the contemporaries and the lagged impact of economic growth on employment. And there are 3 different types of model that I try to estimate. Is the difference model and the 2 different types of gap model. In the difference model, I use the different version of the variables, and in the gap model, the variables are cyclically adjusted using the HP filter and the PK filter. So the results show that for Bangladesh, the relationship is relatively weaker compared to other countries. So out of the 3 models, the short-term coefficient is statistically significant under only one of the model. However, for countries like India, Malaysia, Vietnam, China, and Korea, they exhibit much stronger relationship, and their coefficient is statistically significant across all the 3 models. I also try to look at the long-run relationship. So the variable theta on the rightmost side of this table, it shows the coefficients for the long-run relationships. And with the exceptions of some countries like Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka, most of the countries here show statistical, at least in 2 out of the 3 models, the relationship is statistically significant. So I try to look into the Bangladesh data into more details, and then I check the employment elasticity of economic growth for Bangladesh across different sectors and different time periods. So this is basically testing the percentage change in employment due to 1% change in GDP growth. So as you can see in the first table, for the full sample 1991 to 2004, the elasticity is around 0.6 for industry and the services sector. But interestingly, for agriculture, it is negative and minus 0.04. Probably for Bangladesh, we can explain it by saying that in late 1980s and 1990s, there were a sharp increase in mechanization, and the productivity in the agriculture sector increased significantly. So as a result, the growth in output in this sector has outpaced the growth in the employment during this period, and that is probably driving these numbers. But things get more interesting if you look at the different sub-periods. So in the second table, I look at 3 different sub-periods, 2003 to 2010, and 2010 to 17, and 17 to 2024. Here, the elasticity for the agricultural sector is negative between 2010 and 27, but then suddenly there is a sharp increase to 0.98, which is very surprising. But on the other hand, for industry and the services sector, the elasticity has declined gradually. For industry, it has declined from 0.84 to minus 0.04, and for services, it has declined from 0.53 to 0.23. So overall, we can see that in aggregate, the elasticity has declined in the last decade, but it has increased slightly in the 2017 to 24 period. But that was largely driven by the agricultural sector. Then I look at some of the subsectors within these sectors for the 2017 and 24 period. And as you know, that industry sector is comprised of manufacturing and number in the negative elasticity for industry in the 2017 to 24 period, that is mostly driven by the negative elasticity of the manufacturing sector. So the employment growth that we have seen in this sector from early 2000 to even in early 2010s, that came from the manufacturing, particularly from the RMG sector. So we can see that this is not valid anymore. So it's not these sectors are not producing any more jobs. But if you look at the service sectors, different subcomponents here, sectors like accommodation and food services, transportation and storage, they are doing quite well compared to other service sector elasticities. So just to conclude, overall, we can see that for Bangladesh, there is a structural shift in the employment. For example, now we are seeing more of the jobs is now creating in the has been created in the agricultural sector compared to the service and the manufacturing sector. But this is not the trend that we really like to see, because if you want to see that, if you see the countries that have developed very quickly from lower middle income to upper middle income and high income countries, usually the employment in those countries were driven by the manufacturing and the industries and the services sector. But for Bangladesh, we are seeing an opposite trend. Actually, Bangladesh was in the right track for quite some time, but in the last decade, probably the trend has reversed. So this is, of course, is a point of concern for Bangladesh. So in terms of policies, I think the policies should be should focus on employment-led growth rather than only focusing on growth and expecting that there will be some sort of employment that will be generated. So the businesses should have incentives to create more jobs, and we should find out the sectors that has the highest potential to create more jobs. So I try to do that, looking at some elasticities very quickly for some of the subsectors. But in the World Bank, we're also working on a more detailed report. It's called the Country Growth and Jobs Report, where we will address these issues in more in depth. And finally, I think we should also look at the agricultural sector employment data, and whether there are actually some employment being created in this sector, or whether it's just people who are not being able to get jobs in other sector, just doing some subsistence level, like low paying informal jobs. And this is where the issue of quality of jobs comes in. So if you look at the BSCO data, there is a category called skilled agriculture, forestry and fisheries. And this particular category has been responsible for most of the new jobs created in Bangladesh in the last decade. About 43% of the new jobs were created in this sector. And it has the highest growth rate among all the other categories. And it's probably the employment in this sector is not very formal or high paying. And compared to the manager and professionals category, which is still below 10%. So an university student currently who are studying in university, and they're not probably looking into getting a job into this category when they pass, when they get their degrees. So it's creating a lot of frustration, and I think which has implication not only for the economy, but also other like social, political, and in other areas. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
I think that's I'm also there. Yeah, so, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasmus, for that excellent presentation. Painting quite a concerning picture of the labor market trends and the lack of growth in jobs over the past decade. You will do the reflections, the questions, and have Madhav as a discussant speaking on the presentations altogether after all of the interventions. So let's first next move to Mr. Rohit Duwadi for his presentation.
Take extremes to
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Very warm good morning to all of you. I'm Rohit Dwadi, a research fellow at Leo Lab, Flaxo University. Is it okay? Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Rohit Dwadi, research fellow at Leo Lab, Flaxo University. In this paper, which is joint work with one of my professor, Prakhar Singh, this paper titled Guided by Stars, Employee Rating and the Future of the Firm Performance. In this paper, we try to analyze how employee sentiments impact the firm performance over the year. In today's digital world, employees can freely and anonymously express their workplace experience like platforms like Glassdoor, Indeed, and Ambition Box. And millions of people use this data to decide where to work. And we know that from the economics that happy workers are the one of the most productive worker. But do we actually see this pattern in the financials, firm financials? And in India, we have no evidence on this. So in this paper, we try to, based on firm level evidence, we try to answer three main key questions that are employees review predict the firm financial performance? Second, does the rating and the performance vary across the industries? And if it is matter, then which dimensions of employees rating matters the most? So to answer this question, we need two types of data. First, the employee sentiment data and the financial data. We took the employee sentiment data from the Ambition Box, which is India's largest employee review platform, where an employee can anonymously review their companies, their employer about in different aspects like salary, like job security, work-life balance, career growth, and different 8 dimensions. And this is one of the largest platforms which has over 6 million monthly visitors, and it covers more than 35,000 companies. And for the financial data, we took the data from the Provis DX, which is maintained under the CMI India, and it provides the firm level financial data on profitability, sales, assets, employment, etc. And we match these two data based on year and the firm level panel, and we have over 591 firms panel over year. And to restrict the biasness, we restrict the firms which have only 50 reviews over the year. And we have, within a 591 firms, we have multiple industries. It includes IT, healthcare, finance, and manufacturing sectors. So before going to the main empirical setting and the results, let me just quickly give you the snapshots about the overall reviews data and the financial performance. We can clearly see that on average, Indian employees rate their employers about 3.8, which is moderately high. But interesting pattern is once we go the different dimensions like job security and work balance, we can clearly see that they rate job security ratings and the work-life balance above median. And you can clearly see that the salary rating and the promotion rating is too high. That means they are happy with the job securities and the work-life balance, but they are too concerned about salary rating and the promotion rating that once you grow up, then there's a gap up in the advancing in your positions. And in terms of financial data, ROA, you can see on average, the Indian firms ROA is around 2.5%, and which is varying across. We have both profitable firm as well as non-profitable firm. So let me explain how we test this. We used firm level panel regression model, and we can see the left hand side, the dependent variable is firm performance measuring by ROA of firm I over time frame T, and our key independent variable is rating, that is the employee's rating for firm I over time T minus 1. And it includes different controls like our firm's assets, log of sales, log of employees, firm A's, and the reviews and compensation, etc. And we also use the industry fixed effect just to control for the systematic characteristics of the different industries. And also we use the year fixed effect to control the macroeconomic changes over the period of time. So what exactly the result shows? Sorry, can you just shift this one in between?
The top, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
you can put in the,
yeah. So now let me show you the main result. So this table shows the 4 specifications that we have used from adding. I mean, we keep on adding more controls and the fixed effects. The first column, it shows that only the clean relationship between lag of rating and the ROA of the firms. And as we move forward, we can see in the fourth column, which is our main specifications, which include all the controls like a log of assets, log of employee, and forms A's, etc. And with fixed effects, we can clearly see that when the employee's rating is increased by 1 unit, the ROA is increased by almost 3.8%. And in terms of mean changes, 1 point increase in employees rating from mean 3.77 is associated with firms' performance increase by about 5% in ROA. That means firmware which has good rating in the T year, which is expected to grow company in the next year. So we saw that, yes, there is a relationship between employees rating and the firm performance. Is it same for all the industry, or there is a different relationship across industry? We trace the same empirical setting for the different industries separately for automobile, financials, healthcare, IT, and different industries. We can clearly see that the industry which is directly deals with the customer, like healthcare, food and beverages, and consultancy, these are more towards labor intensive industry. So that means the employees rating, employee sentiments matter most to the only majorly to those industries which are more engaged with more engaged with labor intensive industries, and those who has direct interaction with the customer. For example, in healthcare industries, like doctors and nurses, they do day-to-day interaction with the customer. Like if the doctor and nurse are happy with their workplace, then it will be more impactful to the financial performance of the healthcare industry. So far we established that the rating is matters, and we say that it matters to the companies which have the labor intensive industry. Now, we can see that from our ambition box, we'll get a different ratings like job security, work-life balance, and etc. So in this table, we try to test which type of rating matters the most. Which characteristic is the most important for the employee to be happy and make a productive for the company. So we can clearly see that salary rating matters the most. That means if we pay fair wages or fair wages to the employee, then it will be it will create a platform, and it will directly pay off to the company in the next year. And interestingly, you can clearly see that the promotion rating is negatively correlated, negatively significant. That means if we promote the employees quickly, that means the immature, or I mean lack of experience people who go on the top level, then it will create a problem. That means it will directly create the negative to the ROA. So to that, let me just conclude all the finding, whatever we find, that we find that 1 point increase in employees rating from mean 3.77 is associated with the increase in firm performance about 5% of the mean. And we saw that this relationship is not uniform across industries. This is strongest in the labor-intensive sector like healthcare, consultancy, food and beverages. And we can clearly say that one interesting pattern is there is no significant relationship in the IT sector. And in terms of different dimensions, that only salary rate benefits is positively associated and the promotion rating is negatively associated. So the key takeaway from this presentation is that employee rating contain the economically meaningful information. It is not only the HR metrics, but their impacts on industries, context, and job setting. It has a broad impact on companies. And this study can inform CHRO that what aspect of worker sentiment to focus on and for higher profitability. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rohit. Certainly music to the ears of the ILO that investing in people and treating your workers right leads to profitability. That's good to hear. Good to hear that reinforced with the data. Thank you very much. Let me now turn to Ms. Deepa Das from SANEM for the next presentation.
It's done already. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deepa Dash, and today I'll be presenting our joint work with Mr. MD Tuhin Ahmed. And our paper mainly asks a very simple but understudied question: what actually drives people to choose manufacturing employment in Bangladesh? So, why manufacturing actually matters? Bangladesh, from an agrarian country, has gone through a structural shift over the times. Though currently service sector is the highest contributor in the Bangladesh GDP, still industry almost contribute 37% of Bangladesh GDP, and among industry sector, manufacturing is the highest contributor in among industrial sector. It contributes around 25% of Bangladesh GDP, and this major part of the manufacturing sector comes from the RMG, ready-made garment sectors, and ready-made garment sector dominates 80% of Bangladesh total export basket. And along with that, given the scenario of Bangladesh LDC graduation and everything in coming years, industry is strongly aligned with SDGs 8, 9, and 10, which is decent work, industrial innovation, and reduced inequalities. So this is the export basket share, where RMG is contributing around 80% of the total export in Bangladesh. So another thing is why manufacturing employment is essential. That is important, and we should look at it, because I would like to highlight two important things. That is, over the years, the total employment in manufacturing among the overall working people is declining over the time, and another significant portion is the females number is decreasing faster. So the number of female workers are shrinking more, and the total number of employment is also shrinking in manufacturing employment. And this rises. Why is it happening? What might be the factors that causing it? So given the literature, that there have been no empirical studies which have explored manufacturing sector labor dynamics and also the supply side factors in Bangladesh. Even though there are some literature which has been focused on overall determinants of employment, female labor force participation, but no specific literature has been done or empirical studies have been explored manufacturing sector labor dynamics. So the main target of this study is to identify the demographic, household human capital, and geographic determinants of manufacturing employment. More specifically, we want to explore the supply side factors that influence people's decision to go to the manufacturing sector. So For the data, we have used quarterly labor force survey data 2022, and the data is a cross-sectional national representative data. The source of the data is BBS, and in the analytical sample in our study, we have used 198,848 employed individuals, and those individuals they are distributed in agriculture, manufacturing, non-manufacturing services. So in the dependent variable, we have employment as a category variable, where we have again for those four sectors, and agriculture is the base category. And in the exploratory variable, we have four categories. Demographic category includes age group, sex, marital status, disability status. Household variable includes household head, female head, household size, child number of individual in the household employed in the manufacturing sector, household landholding size, the dwelling type of the household. And for the human capital, we have taken education status, training status of the individual. For the geographic category, we have taken spatial, like urban or rural region, whether they are from the eastern region of the country or the western part of the country. So since all the variables, dependent variables are categorical in nature, and the outcome variables are more than two unordered categories, we have used multinomial logic model, since it is the most appropriate model as suggested by the literature. And so this is the brief descriptive statistics of the data we are using. So in terms of, if we compare manufacturing and agriculture data in the LFS, we can see that urban resident, those people who are from the urban areas, those people who are from the eastern region of the country, those people who don't own any land or landless, they stay in the rented dwelling. They intend to be more in the manufacturing sector. And also those people who are in the tertiary education, they try to be in the manufacturing sector. In the contrast, female workers are more in the agriculture. Those people who have larger household size, they are in the agriculture. And those who have no education, formal education, they are in the agriculture. So this is the estimated coefficient. We will be explaining more with the relative risk ratio and average marginal effects. So that is the most appropriate for the MNL models. So if we summarize the key result of the relative risk ratio, we can see that for the RRR ratio, those RRR ratio indicates if for a variable RRR ratio is greater than 1, that indicates a variable tends to influence people more to stay in the manufacturing sector. In that case, since agriculture is the base category, I just want to add that we have also seen for the other sector as well, along with the manufacturing, non-manufacturing, and service. Since we are only focusing on the manufacturing, that's why we are showing the results from the manufacturing only. So this RRR ratio suggests that those people who are in the like age bracket of 35 to 44, compared to younger and the older people, they tends to be more into manufacturing sector compared to agriculture, since the RRR is greater than 1.8. And for the household member, if a person from a household is in the manufacturing sector, already working in manufacturing sector, that household, that other person from that household to be in manufacturing sector is 8 times higher. That means if someone from my household works in the manufacturing sector, I am 8 times more likely to be in the manufacturing sector compared to agriculture. For the variables, female, if the gender is female, and if the people is in the rural area or western region, they are more likely to stay in the agriculture. And if the person is married, they're more likely to be in the agriculture. On the contrary, female-headed household or widowed or separated, marital status and higher education tends to make people to stay more in the manufacturing sector. So if we look at the percentage points here in the green one, signaling the positive higher probability, positive effects, that these variables has positive influence, and they tends to influence people to over agriculture, and the red one showing the negative effects that those people have lower probability of choosing manufacturing. So it is showing that again, if the household member is in manufacturing, they are more likely to be in the manufacturing, 12 times more likely, 12 percentage point more likely to be in the manufacturing sector if one person from a household is in the manufacturing sector. Again, if it is from the rented household family, that then they are 3 percentage point more likely to be in the manufacturing sector compared to agriculture. Again, from the female household, headed household, marital status, tertiary education increases the percentage point to stay in the manufacturing sector compared to agriculture. And on the contrary, being female reduces the percentage points by 4.15%. So if we go to the result in a brief, in the determinant demographic category wise, age, primer age workers are most likely to be in the manufacturing, and along with the higher age, the tendency to go to the manufacturing employment declines. Females are less likely to stay in the manufacturing. If we look at the capital, human capital, with education, people are more likely to be in the manufacturing sector. Tertiary education yields the highest RRR ratio, but only 8.6% of the manufacturing workers hold a tertiary degree. So it is a huge gap. And vocational training does not have any significant impact in choosing manufacturing employment. Again, geographic determinants, urban people are more likely to be in the manufacturing employment, and people from the western resident are less likely to be in the manufacturing employment. For the household, people with higher land holdings most likely to be in the less likely to be in the manufacturing. They choose agriculture mostly. So and household with household size higher number household member, they are most likely to be in agriculture. And a household with children under 5, more children under 5, the less people will be coming in the manufacturing sector. It might be showing the care work burdens and the other things. So the two, I want to highlight the two findings majorly: the gender paradox, the overall employment in manufacturing is shrinking. The RMG sector once was a half of female, is now only 35% of its employment as female workers, and the women are missing from the manufacturing sector. Overall, the RMG and the manufacturing sector completely, women are shrinking very faster. So it might be reason for the social culture norms, manufacturing, family obligation, and other childcare, which might be implying this shift. So again, the household network effect, if you want to focus that if a person in the household, that is increasing the tendency for people going to manufacturing more. So it might indicate that informal referrals helps, and the trust that one people is already working in the manufacturing, that is again helping the other people to go to the sector. It might be helpful if we take some policy regarding the community based employment platforms, which can help in the network effect and further increase in the manufacturing employment. So this is the overall policy implication. The childcare support near industrial zones might help. Gender-sensitive labor standard we already have, but proper implementation of that might be needed. Regional infrastructure development, since urban area people are more into manufacturing compared to rural, and western region is lower in the manufacturing employment. Community employment networks, again, which I was saying, and also the industrial aligned education and training. Since the normal education line is switching people more towards manufacturing compared to the vocational training, we need to think our vocational curriculum again to study to help our industry growth maybe. So the limitations of this study is it is a cross-sectional, and we cannot establish any casual interference, and also the informal manufacturing does not capture is not captured in the LFS. So it is a single survey year, no trend analysis is possible. So thank you, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deepa Das. Let's quickly move to our next and final presenter, Mr. Tidian Guindo, who I believe is joining us from Media. Mr. Guindo, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's 1 minute. Might check on okay.
Tidiana, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Okay, you can share your screen.
All right.
And so I'll need to go ahead and operate from.
Is it okay from your side? It's good. Just share the speed. Because of position down, speed up to.
কোনটা
Don't start speed down to. Yes.
অফ করা তো ও আচ্ছা আচ্ছা ওকে
Yeah. The screen is okay from your side. We can't see you yet. Not minimize. Exactly. To be zooming monitor on.
I'm doing it.
No, that's not. Just
Stop
go to
share
the
for
share
it.
screen.
Stop share for it. It's slow.
No, that's not. Just wait. Hold on. I'll do it. This one, right?
Laptop this.
My screen is
Yeah.
visible from your side.
No, we can see you. Could you please put it on slideshow mode?
Can I start? It's okay, everything.
You can start. We can see you and kindly put your screen on the slideshow mode.
All right. So I have shared my screen. Is visible from your side, or
Yeah, we can see it. Can you please put in a slideshow mode on the PPT?
you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. All right.
Can you put it in the slideshow mode in the PPT? The next one and next one. No, the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
So good morning here, everyone. Today I'm about to present this paper in this conference. First and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity to allow me to present this work. It's based on innovation and IC adaptation. So this paper is being drafted from master thesis where I have been focusing on understanding innovation and IC adaptation and their impact on labor productivity in Southeast Asia countries. So moving forward, here is the research question. What are the drivers that contribute most significantly to labor productivity growth in the region? And how their effects differ across Southeast 6, which is the most advanced ones, and Southeastern in the overall region. So the scope of the study, it has 10 Southeast Asia nations, and the time period is from 2000 to 2003, 23 years span. And the method is the methodology used is fixed effect panel models, and the system generalized method of movement. And here the key driver are ICT, information communication technology, innovation, foreign direct investment, human capital and infrastructure. So from the analysis, the panel fixed effect and the GMM, the core finding is we have here FDI. FDI mostly has been found in the study as the most universal drivers. And also we have here the patent output model, also pattern also in the most advanced country, pattern the drive productivity. And the FDI in the overall region, considering the 10 region, is the most positive factor. Moving forward here, we have the motivation, the content, right? Why Southeast Asia and why the productivity paradox. So Southeast Asia, as we know, is the most digital economy, projected to reach 1 trillion by 2030. Right? And also we have Singapore, the leading global innovation index and the leading global index, and we have Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos lag for behind. There are some countries still lagging behind in the digital economy. We have also research and development. Singapore mostly they have 2.70% of GDP, versus Cambodia and some other region having less than 2.2 or 0.2%. So rapid digitalization has yet to grow, has led productivity, but still we are having differences across members. So here we have middle income trap that is threatening Malaysia and other, despite the earlier gains of ICT development. So here the research gap are, we have most studies have examined ICT on adaptation and isolation. They did not combine it in one study. And also we have limited focus on the region internal heterogeneity. And we have prior work dominated by OECD or study panel approaches over developed countries. As I said, most of the studies do not cover from 2000 to 2023, which capture all through digital imports. So here in this study, it has been separated. We have the most advanced one and the overall region to better analyze and understand the productivity drivers in the region. So here we have the theoretical framework, right? The framework are endogenous growth theory of Rammer. We stated that innovation and research and development and human capital are the internal driver of long-term productivity. And we have the definition of innovation of Rogers from 2003, which give us an idea of what are the benefits and the compatibility of technology, right? As Singapore leading in AI and the 5G adaptation, while infrastructure barrier persists in others less advanced members. Here we have also the OECD framework, knowledge organization, information interaction of Konaksky in 1990, which better give us a clear idea of ICT integration can be currently reflected on Singapore as a nation, Thailand, who that can be designed or adopted to gain.
Mr. Guindo, we're losing you. Can you speak close to the mic?
You can higher productivity and getting for full knowledge.
Can you speak closer to the mic? We are not able to hear you properly. Mr. Guindo.
I think we lost his voice.
Peter cannot text you. Right.
Okay. So we just
Michael.
just text him.
Hello, my voice is clear now from your side. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, now we can hear you. We couldn't hear you for a few minutes.
So, as I said, the dependent variable is labor productivity, GDP per person employed, 2020. And we have here the ICT, international users, percentage of population, mobile subscription per 100. So in the innovation side, we have research and development per percent of GDP, patent per million, and global innovation index. The voice is clear? Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Right. So the countries are in Indonesia and the 6 Asian countries. We have Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Brunei. In the other 10 nations, it includes Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. So the baseline model is that here we have your labor productivity as dependent variable, and we have the intercept here. We have the coefficient, the ICT as independent variables. So here we have descriptive statistic from the Southeast 10 countries and the Southeast 6 countries. So here we can, as you can see, GDP per person employee, which has been considered as a labor productivity variable. In the interpretation side, we have advanced 6 Asian economies are having more 20%, 25% more productivity. So international users here, we can see some countries are having higher, but still lagging behind. And also we are having research and development expenditures, which can be seen here in the Southeast Asia 6, means that they are more investing 60% in research and development. And we have patent application per million. The advanced ones are more having high innovation output. And concerning the average year of schooling, we have human capital gap across still in the region. But as we can see, the mean for Southeast 10 countries, we are having 2.8.2 and 9.8, which highlight the human capital gaps in the region. So the regression results, the output is that here we can see from the variable internet use, mobile banking, mobile subscription, research and development patent. And here we can see internet use in the Southeast 10 countries is significant here. That means internet use in the region can really provide or can really give some productivity benefit. And also others, but it's significant only in the fixed effect models. It's not really significant in the GMM models. And after the significance of internet use, we have here, as previously I mentioned, the foreign direct investment in percent of GDP. It's robust across all models, the GMM and the fixed effect models. It has found to be significant as key drivers of productivity in the region. And we are here, average year of schooling is significant across all models. Elective access is quite not significant, it's weak, has been found weak in both models. And as we can see, the GDP per workers, we're having a lag, the persistence is still strong. It still has been found the GMM models to be significant. So moving forward here, the regression of the 6 countries in the region, internet use has been found in this case not significant in both models, the GMM and the fixed effect. And the research and development model has been found only in the GMM to be significant. It means in the region, the country, the more advanced countries are still investing hugely in the economy to boost the productivity level. And patent application has been found to be robust in the GMM model to be significant. It means patent application really lead productivity in the region. And also the FDI, as mentioned previously, across all regions has been found the most driver of productivity. And the lag of the GDP has been still found to be consistent, still strong. I mean, the lag of the previous year is still driving the next productivity level. So the key finding here are here to be more concise. What can be learned, or what are the most practical policy implementation? Here in the whole region, we can see IT
access. Internet adaptation boosts productivity in the region. And innovation and output pattern application strongly positive in the fixation. But the effect dissipates in the GMM models due to commercialization lags, spillover need to materialize. And the innovation input, such as the research and development expenditures, in the whole region has been found consistently insignificant. Before observative capacity, right, spending alone does not translate to productivity. And also we have here one of the most important finding is that the innovation paradox, right? Innovation index is weekly positive in the fixed effect. That means positive composite innovation measure may overstate the benefits in the region. So the FDI is mostly stronger and the most drivers in both models. Regarding the 6 advanced ones country, the key findings needed to be internet and mobile banking show no significant dynamic effect, right? The internet and mobile subscription, it doesn't show any significant effect into gaining productivity. Whereas we are observing here diminishing return, digital access is saturated in the advanced ones, so productivity level is not being composed or getting in a positive way. So in innovation output, we have pattern robust in both models, right? It means knowledge spillover is more effective, right? The reason is stronger information communication ecosystem and commercialization capacity in the region. So in the innovation output, the research and development, as we can see, it emerges as significant in long run GMM models. It means the endogenous growth theory, the return to materialize with a lag as idea research the market, right? Reach the market, sorry. So this is the key findings and the key general implementation that can be adopted specifically in the Southeast 6 countries. So the innovation productivity paradox, the paradox is the composite innovation input innovation index show negative return in the Southeast 6 economies. And while tangible innovation output, such as pattern application, constantly enhance, improve productivity in both regions. So the composite input innovation index, as we can see, the coefficient is significant in Southeast 6 economies in the GMM models. It that translate or reflect to the broader policy resources channel to sector with limited productivity linkages, right? And also firm lack absorptive capacity to convert policy input to commercial output. So, and also we are here, we found that there is misalignment between national innovation strategy and the firm level capacity. So this framework is mostly the technology organization, the ICT adaptation is not being synchronized or generalized in the region. So it's really important to highlight that section. And also one of the most important one here, the tangible output, right? The pattern application. In the Southeastern countries, it has been found to be significant, right? But in the Southeast 6 countries, it has been found to be significant too. So pattern as tangible output driver, knowledge spillovers, right, across the economy. And knowledge spillover theory here is confirmed, right? Output, not input, generates growth, right? So this is very important to highlight here in the innovation productivity paradox. And here there are some few recommendations for some countries here from the 10 countries, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Vietnam. First, they need to focus on technology diffusion, the IP right and foundation. They need to strengthen their intellectual property system to encourage incremental locally relevant innovation, strategic FDI, and observable capacity, investing in education quality and skill training to convert technology access into productivity. So in the most advanced one, the policy recommendation are they need to focus on mission. They need to have mission-oriented research and development. Instead of investing randomly or without any focus, important focus, they need to focus mainly on high potential sector, such as the digital economy, advanced manufacturing, and green technology. And they need to adopt this system, the commercialization ecosystem, right? That brings research to market gaps, right? University, industry collaboration, startup incubation, and IP commercialization. And also they need to look at the aspect of the FDI quality, right? Attracting knowledge intensive FDI instead of building IP instead of building company that doesn't generate much productivity gain. And also we have quality over quantity. It's very important. Shift from enrollment, infrastructure expansion to quality, curricular relevant infrastructure efficiency is very important in the most advanced economies. So the conclusion here, in one line, what is the core finding, right? To put together this finding into one line or one sentence, the effectiveness of ICT, right, innovation, human capital, and infrastructure as productivity levers is highly contingent on developing state. A one-size-fits-all policy is ill-suited for the whole region diversity. So one innovation policy cannot be implemented or can bring some mismatch into productivity gain in the region. Instead of that, they need to provide each relevant region need to have their own innovation project. So here, the catch-up here, we have a basic connectivity, FDI near-term growth, focus on technology diffusion and the IP foundation in the region. In the most advanced one, the frontier path will be pattern output combined with long-run research and development, the FDI drive growth. In that case, they can move beyond access to innovation, quality, and commercialization. So the study has contributed to different areas. Mostly, this is the first study to jointly examine information and communication technology and innovation over 2000 to 2023, capturing all the three digital epochs in the region. And also to bifurcate this ASEAN 6 and the ASEAN 10 in the region, this has provided the first analysis on the heterogeneous development stage mechanism of Southeast Asia. And thirdly, we have here the system personalized method of movement.
Thank you very much.
For endogeneity and dynamic persistence. And robust diagnostic validation has been incorporated in the paper. So this is the last slide. So it will be great if you have any question or any section to clarify. I will be happy to clarify that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that. So we have 20 minutes left in which we want to hear from Dr. Mata, but also then to take some questions and comments from the floor. So without further ado, over to you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you so much. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Max. I'll try to finish my comments in 10 minutes so that we have at least 10 minutes. Or let me try to finish my comments in 8 minutes so that we have time for the responses. Amazing presentations, amazing topics, and as Max was saying, some of the topics, some of the findings are very crucial to our understanding on development economics in terms of in labor dimensions. So I have just few comments and concerns that I try to point out. So I'll be very brief. So let me go by order with the Dr. Sadat. So in your paper, you did one thing that struck me very suddenly is that you use regression for one type of elasticity and then use the point arc elasticity in another pair. So there is a kind of those are very different, right? So maybe it will be better to just use the arc elasticity as a comparable for the part you used in the regression as well. So then for the another point is that you use filter, but filter-based output gap models, they can be quite sensitive to like the endpoint problems, and so the filter choice and but particularly the type of the data that you have. So how that affects your result? Maybe it would be good if you look into that as well. Then another point I have is that the sharp rise in agriculture that we see, particularly in the forest of Bangladesh, and that happened in a post-pandemic period, right, in the 2022 compared to 2017. So, and it happened in many other countries as well, globally. One of the reasons what we said at the time is that many people lost their jobs in the urban informal sectors. They went back to the rural areas. They took up the agriculture. So maybe maybe analyze this a bit of explanation whether this was it was not structural, right? If it is this is not a structural shift that we're seeing. Maybe this was because of absorption, because of the shock absorption of those families. So then another point I had is that of course original theory that actually links the, as you know, unemployment with the economic growth. So you observe the employment, which is absolutely fine, but just towards the beginning, if you just give some clarification to the audience on why you chose the employment instead of unemployment, that would be quite helpful. The reason I'm saying is the unemployment data that you see, particularly in countries like Bangladesh, they remain almost like 4% all the time. So we have so high economic growth, but our unemployment rate is 4%, 3.5% to 4.5%. So that might you might have to have some insight from there. Would be very helpful. I'm running out of time, so let me move to Rohit. So Rohit, my first comment is that sample selection. You only took the firms that have sufficient review over 50. So that means that the firms you took, they are quite large. So you in a sample you didn't include any firms which have less than 50 reviews, right? So that means there might be startups or other firms, those were put out of the sample selection. So, and I believe there is endogeneity. We economists, we love to talk about endogeneity. So there are endogeneity in the model because I think due to the omitted variable bias, particularly, for example, management quality, market power, then governance, product demand, all those are to the right? So if you omit any of them, then it is the covariance of UI and YI that doesn't go to zero. So there will be endogeneity. So my suggestion, and also another point I think that can lead to endogeneity is that you took the rating from the previous period, and you some of the indicator explanatory variable that you have, or even your error term. I'm quite certain your covariance of rating T-1 and UI is not equal to 0. So maybe it will be better to test it, like whether that assumption holds. If that doesn't hold, in that case, what will happen is that your OLS will not hold. Okay, and then so one thing I believe you can do, you can use the form fixed effects. You can use since you have panel data, you can go for some panel structures. But I would suggest going for instrumental variable approach. That could solve the problem. And then let me move to Deepa. Let me actually, so I will praise all of your papers in my conclusion, but let me, because I have so let me give the questions or my concerns. The first one is that you use MNL, multi-domain logic. So one of the limitations of the MNL, it depends on the assumption of independence of irrelevant alternatives, IIA. So that's problematic. That means that, when I'm choosing between agriculture and manufacturing services, they are irrelevant choices. But that is not. When someone chooses between agriculture, manufacturing, and services, they actually chooses between them. So the choices are not independent of each other, right? So better would be going for multinomial probability. There could be heterogeneity as well, like we love the term. So for example, urban residents. Someone can be in the urban areas just to grab a job in the manufacturing and services, right? And then I think you should do a test for IIA. And also, I'm not sure whether you use this survey weight, but since LFS is a fascinating data set, you should, and you are talking about nationally representative data and your analysis to be holding nationally, right? So use the survey weight. I'm not sure whether you clustered your standard errors, so you need to cluster your standard errors as well. And then my major concern is that another form of that the problem that we face is sample selection. You took the sample who are already in the employment, right? So that's what we do during the Heckman, right? There's a pure sample selection problem here. People who are already in the labor market, you are taking their responses. So they have inherent capacities. That's why they are in the labor market. Okay, so if you do like some control function approach or necessary structures, that will be like in the first structure, you look for who are in the labor market. In the second structure, you look at the those who are in the labor market, controlling for their you look at their choices between the alternative sectors, controlling for their labor market choice. Okay. And I believe I have 30 seconds left. Okay, next one, Gideon. Mr. Gideon, I think the system GMM is typical to conceive when you have very small n. So maybe it will be better if you just go with the fixed effect model with country and year fixed effects, controlling for the after controlling for for the panel corrected standard errors. So I believe in a paper there could be multiplicity in some of the innovation variables. For example, you took R&D, patents, and the innovation index, and there could be multiplicity there. And with your dependent variable, the GDP per person employed, this can move because of capital deepening, sectoral reallocation, commodity cycles, or employment compression. So the concern is that if you don't control for those macro issues, then there could be maybe in your paper you have already addressed this one, but that needs to be addressed. And my last, as I was saying, when your GMM, so your fixed effect model can be your main model, and you can just incorporate your system GMM as your robustness test. I looked at your paper, and your Hansen P value is 1. I don't know how do you interpret that value. Will raise an eyebrow. Any of the reviewers will be reading your paper when you submit. Let me conclude here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Marshall. I'd be lying if I said I understood all of your comments, but I hope you guys do. Before I give you the right to reply, maybe we can throw open the floor for any questions or comments. Please open the audience, please.
Thank you very much. Since we don't have much time, I have 2 questions, but I will ask one. My question is for Dr. Navisada. So it seems like skills mismatch is a never-ending challenge for that. I mean, we have been talking about this for quite some time, but we haven't seen much improvement. And the issues like, dominance of informal employment, automation, and just transition made the situation complex. So in this scenario, being a development practitioner and working closely with the government sector, what do you think about the disagreements? I mean, what went wrong? Thank you very much.
You may have time to ask your second question, but hold on to this.
Thank you so much. As Dr. Sada rightly pointed out that there is a recent surge in agricultural employment, and if we and low quality of jobs, if we dig down using the basic code in LFS, we would see that this surge is mostly coming from the livestock, at a diseducated level, and mostly driven by female. And all these figures are based on ICLS 13. And if we consider ICLS 19, we would see that among these employments, we could see that some of them are not even employed according to the definition of ICLS 19. So in the presence of Honorable Committee Director ILO, I would like to ask whether the country should seriously consider implementing ICLS 19 seriously, although they report ICLS 19 for some indicators, but whether they should go seriously for ICLS 19 instead of ICLS 13. Thank you.
Colleagues Gunjan from ILO. Quick observation, excellent presentation, Dr. Napal, and also Deepa. Very good presentation. Just one quick question. So, LFS 22 data has an issue because it was just coming out of the COVID crisis, right? So there was a lot of short-run effect of the COVID. So would your observation and recommendation be the same if you omit that 2022 data instead and take 2024 data? Right? I mean, how did that observation make sense? And another point is like sometimes we might be comparing apple with bananas when we mix that ICLS 19 data and ICLS 20, ICLS 13 and ICLS 19 data. ILStat has that provision of having this kind of two data, data available in two forms. So are you consciously using that two data font, harmonizing that ICLS 13 in your analysis? I could also notice some sort of mixing of ICLS 19 related data as well in that area. So I just want to be clear that are you using that ICLS 13 only or mixing of ICLS 19 elements?
Any more questions or comments? You want to carry yours out? Or do we have enough food for thought for the panel? Okay, why don't we go first? I think Dr. Nasmus, couple of them more directed.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think very good comments. Maybe let me start from the comments on the COVID impact. I think both of you has mentioned this. So yeah, this is a concern that I had while looking at the data. So initially, I used LFS 22 data, and then these results were that shift that we obviously observed, and part of it is that could be due to the COVID. But then I think later on, so the data that I showed now that also used LFS 24. So and then we are still observing that the elasticity, the trend is still there. So in these 2 years, it probably improved a little bit, but not that much. So the final conclusion still holds. So that is a concern. I mean, let's see what we get from the data that comes up after that. But at least until the 24 data, I think the concern is still quite valid. About the comments on the skills mismatch, this is a major concern. I mean, when we talk to different industrialists and the business people, that we are doing this for our upcoming the country growth and jobs report. And this is a concern that is addressed by almost all businessmen. And they say that we are not getting the skills that we are looking for. And the universities, the degrees that are getting, those are not very relevant for the skill set that they want. Even in those specialized, there are some specialized universities which for leather industries, for example, there are universities where they teach the specific subjects, but even those universities are following curriculums which are quite old. So even the people that are coming out of those universities, they are not properly skilled. So I think this is one area where we really need to concentrate and try to find this connection between the industry and the universities, which is very much missing in Bangladesh. And there was a comment on the point estimate over and the time series data. So yeah, so I think the basic idea was to get as more data as possible. So in the time series, I could get it from 1990, and from the LFS, I think the earliest that I could get it was 2001 or three. So that was the idea, but and that's right. The results can vary a little bit because, and also it sometimes becomes a bit difficult without the LFS data that explains what happened between 1990 to 2001. But I think more or less the results are, not too different. I mean, we can explain the regression results from the point estimate. So that's why I kept both, but that's one of the issues that maybe I can consider. And I think you also mentioned about the robustness. Yeah, that's another issue. So the results can vary based on the lag lengths and all these factors. So I've tested different lag lengths, the SIC, SCIC. So mostly they're stable. And there is also another test, that cumulative sum of squared test that I did for the stability of the coefficients. So which also kind of showed that the coefficients are kind of stable, but yeah, the results do vary a little bit based on what is the methodology that is used. That's why I tried to use 3 different types of models rather than one. So I'll stop there for this.
Maybe just to pick up on the skills mismatch question, because Deepa, one of the things I picked up from your intervention was that there was no impact of TVET on the likelihood of people entering the manufacturing sector. Can you expand on that just a little bit, and also related to the skills mismatch discussion?
So the impact of vocational training was small, but it was insignificant. It was positive, but not significant. So, but for the general education, like apart from no education category, the other category, the primary, tertiary, and the secondary, all had positive and significant impact in choosing or like switching to manufacturing compared to agriculture. Yeah.
Anybody want to respond to any of that?
As Dr. Gunjan said, maybe that there might be an impact of COVID-19. So we'll be extending it with 2024, and we'll cross-check whether the results still holds or not. Thank you. Thank you for the comments, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. So I'd like to answer 2-3 questions. Like you comments on sample selection, right? We have restricted the forms which have only 50 forms. So you can see that the 50 forms, we choose that just to avoid the biasness in the data, because some of the forms that which has less review can be quite positive or quite negative. And we haven't done 50 from our analysis only, but we have gone through the Alex Edmonds paper. That is one of the standard paper we studied the US form, like from base form. I mean, in USA 100 best companies to work. So there also he gave a standard methodology to select it, and we applied that methodology, and it comes to the number 50. And yes, of course, there will be a problem of heterogeneity, of course, that if you have a good ROA or good financial performance, then it will leads to the good rating, and the employee will be happy. Yeah, that's why we took the lag and we didn't took the entrepreneur's impact. And you also suggested about formless fixed effect. Yes, we are working on that also. And yes, in terms of mechanism, still we are looking for the good IV. So for the paper, I mean, when we will be submitting, it will be with the good mechanism, including the good IVs for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Guindo, you want to come in with any comments? Any final words from your side?
Mr. Guindo, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm getting not that much.
Do you have any comments? You can like if you have anything to say.
All right.
Or you have any comments.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I think I can send him my comments to him in written.
Yeah, I think
Maybe it's not audible from there.
Well, let's wrap things up. Firstly, I want to thank all of the panelists and our discussants and all of you for joining. I think a lot of food for thought on what is definitely a thorny issue here in Bangladesh and indeed in many countries around the world. How do we tackle this issue of jobless growth? Maybe a couple of the issues that were raised from the floor around skills mismatch and data. Maybe just I can use my position on the panel to say that for sure it's the top priority for us when it comes to the skills mismatch discussion. The ILO has obviously been working with the government and others in Bangladesh on skills development for maybe 18 years. And what my reflections are is that we're very much focused on the supply side, but not connecting with the private sector. We say when we talk to industry, they say these are not the TVET centers are not generating the workers that the skills that we need from workforce. So what we are increasingly giving much more attention to is how can we do more industry attachments? How can we do more on-the-job training? How can we ensure that the private sector is informing the curricula of these training centers and adjusting those accordingly? So we are more and more listening to industry and trying to put them at the heart of vocational training. And there are a few models that we've already tried and tested, particularly in Chittagong, where this is beginning to take off, which we've tested, and we think we have the potential to scale up. On data, this is, I think, a long-running challenge. We are, this week, I believe, in the coming days, we're having a meeting with the World Bank and BBS to look at how we can strengthen data collection. And across the ILO, we're coordinating internally as well as with our ILO statistics department to see how we can prepare for the upcoming labor force survey. We heard, I think it was from the Minister of Finance, said that a top priority for the new government that they wanted to get new data because there were questions surrounding the validity of previous data sets, and that particularly with the number of young people entering the labor market, this is the context in which we was discussing the need for conducting this new labor force survey. So Gunjan and colleagues are in constant contact with the BBS, and it's very important that we're working in close coordination with the World Bank and others to make sure that we are raising the bar when it comes to the quality of data that's being generated, which informs all of this analysis and eventually will inform policy direction. So with that, I really want to thank you all for a really fascinating discussion. I think we touched upon the macro, we touched upon the sectoral level, we touched upon the enterprise level, and really giving us a lot of excellent feedback. Thank you very much. We'll now go to a coffee break, I believe, before the next session starts at 11:30.
Certificate.
Thank you. Certificate. Okay, we're doing some certificates as well for the panel. Thank you.
You will be getting your certificates via online since you are not here. Yeah, I already dropped.
Yeah, yes, one by one. The photographer, certificate ছবি তুলবেন আগে, তারপর আমাদের একটা গ্রুপ, so আমাদের একটা গ্রুপ ছবি তুলবেন, হ্যাঁ আগে সার্টিফিকেট অফ ফটো, তখন we want all the audience if you want to have your coffee. Yes, please. We do there. I'm just listening. So it's all right. It's all right. You can move it. This whole so that our professional photographer can take it there. Please. Thank you very much. So Rohit. Yeah, Rohit. Thank you very much. You need to copy too. And we'll take a group photo. Thank you very much.